Today's project, we're going to do a seat recovering for Turbo Steve for his 250 Ninja. We've covered these exact seats several times before because the same seat fits on the 750 Ninja that I have. Pretty much the same anyway. In fact, it's exactly the same. So, without further ado, I want to go through the steps it would take to do this. It's a relatively simple job, a little bit labor intensive, can be. You can see the first thing I need to do is evaluate what I'm dealing with here. Now, it looks like somebody put on some extra market foam when they did this fake red seat. So what we really want to do is step one is get that red seat cover off and see what we have, and then decide if we need to put batting or no batting, or if we have a good seat to work with. However, if we did want to, if you're really lazy, I guess, you could just cover right over that seat and just keep making, and eventually your feet won't hit the foot pegs. Now, it's a pretty simple thing. These are ordinary wire cutters. They need to have a really sharp point, and what I'm going to do is very methodically and carefully, one by one, pull out these rusty staples. It'll take about 4 or 5 minutes, but I'll pull them all out and get rid of that red cover. Now, in the interest of making this an easy job, I got rid of these brackets, just loosen the bolts, they come right out. There's blind nuts cast into the nylon. But the whole idea of everything, of doing any job we do, is to make it as easy and convenient as possible. So you get an idea. Once this is off, and again, the whole objective of making YouTube videos for our friends and even people that are just watching YouTube casually and enjoying the show. The idea is there are going to be staples if you don't get every single one out, and I see one already. But what happens once you get the cover off, and I assume we're going to throw this away, but sometimes some people might want to keep it, doesn't really matter. What I want to do now, and this is a very critical step, I try to always carefully go around this, and I see there's what happens, this staple is like a U-shape, and I've broken off the end, but there's 2 prongs sticking up. So what I want to have, I want to carefully now, and I'll do this off camera, I want to get every one of these, because these are like little razor blades, and if they wind up, they have an uncanny way of winding up under your fingernail, and they're rusty. If you need a tetanus shot, can ruin your whole day. So I want to go around very carefully and get every one of these that I can out. So now the next step on this, I got hopefully all the staples out, but you'll always run your finger there and you'll fall, geez, oh. Well, those staples are really like little razors. And they do have a way of getting you. Okay, now I need to evaluate, look at the seat, there's a piece missing here. See what's going to happen, the material is going to stretch over this, and you're going to kind of see that this is a rough area. Now, and here's a hole in it. So I think we're going to have to use some batting on this, to be honest. I hope I got enough. And it looks like somebody pulled had a bungee cord hanging on the back here or something. So, but if this is, to try to make this as simple as possible, if this foam is in good shape and it's the shape you want to have in the final seat. Now, some people like, and we did this on some of Luciano's Ducatis, we dished it out, we thinned it. There's any number of things. You could add a piece of foam in the back, make like a Humpty Dumpty seat or whatever. But anyway, right now, what'll be to our advantage because of the roughness of the foam, and I know you can't replace that, that's an irreplaceable thing. We buy the batting. It's medium weight batting from JOANNE fabrics, relatively inexpensive, about $20 for enough to do every seat in your house. But anyway, we're going to put some on. I want to show how to put the batting on, and then we're going to get the fabric from JOANNE fabric. The vinyl, there's 2 kinds of vinyls, keep in mind. There's vinyl that's made to stretch and one that relatively doesn't stretch, and usually that one doesn't have a little crisscross pattern on the back. I'll try to show that. And we have, I think there's about 24 videos on my channel that has over 1,200 videos now. And what happens, Windy Space U, but what happens is, and it's really important to understand this, every seat is a little bit different. The Ducati seats were a little bit different than the Honda ones we did for Mark. We've done some for other people, Glenn, and there's no end to it. We've done a lot of them. We've learned a lot of lessons. I'm going to try to share all the lessons we've learned. Now this is where having a real nice sharp set of upholstery shears JOANNE fabric again. Everything's from JOANNE fabric here. Okay, so this is the batting we have left over from the last job. I hope we're going to have enough. If not, it's relatively, like I said, it's relatively inexpensive. It's medium weight. It comes in several different weights. And it's not critical what weight it is. What it is, if you look at it close, it's just like puffy cotton, but it's made out of some material that it tends to smooth things out and fill holes. So what this will do, when I put a layer of this on, it's going to cover a lot of the little imperfections, and the back of this seat going like this. Now, if this were, now I know Steve doesn't want to do this. If this were my seat, I would be taking a, well, a sanding block with 80 grit paper and smooth this all out. But the problem is, these seats don't have a lot of material. I don't want to make it any thinner than possible because I know he doesn't have a spare seat. See, I have a spare seat, so when I experiment and I don't like it, I just go get the other seat. If you don't have a spare, it's a problem. Okay, so we need to cut a piece of this, maybe 2 inches oversize, and then we need to get some upholstery cement, 3M cement, glue that down in position. Okay, so this is what we're using, but it's not critical. Any of the 3M, any contact cement, it'll bond this as good as we need it to be. And it doesn't have to be fancy. We just need just enough on it that holds it in place while we're putting the staples in. Now this is one step in the job. If you have a helper available, or if Turbo Steve was able to be here, he's busy printing money or whatever he's doing. We're just going to try to see if it's our lucky day and drop this in position. We get one shot. Press it down. Start at the lowest spot, work your way out to the edge like a sunburst. Kind of like that, not real high tech. This makes the job, especially the ones we did for Luciano's Ducati that were really in rough shape. I was amazed, and Mark had that one Honda seat that, and these are all on my channel, by the way. I don't want to mess this up. I just want to make sure it sticks in place. Okay, now I'm going to give that a minute to dry, and then go around with those really sharp scissors and trim off the edge. And to start with, that's about how much batting I would leave over the edge. Again, it's nice to have a pair of sharp scissors. This stuff, if you don't have sharp scissors, it doesn't cut real well. Now the next thing is to just fit the fabric. So now this fitting of the part, and by the way, I have to show this. Stretch vinyl on the back, there's non-stretch vinyl, it's the same on both sides almost. There'll be no material. This is like an elastic material that as you stretch this, it stretches in every dimension. The grain goes in like a waffle. So if you know you see that waffle pattern, probably pretty good chance you have a good stretch vinyl. This is from JOANNE fabric. It was about $20 a yard if I remember right. Real nice heavy duty stuff. Pretty much we've gotten, I'm sure at least 2 seats and maybe 3 out of a yard. Now the trick is, and this point is very tempting to make this too small. I like to always make it a little bit bigger than it has to be. Especially if you have a limited amount of material. See what happens if you're short on material up here, it's a problem. So in the worst of all worlds, this is a good way to do it. Leave plenty. That gives you a handle to push on it. We're gonna have plenty of material here, it looks like. And we want to have some around the back. The same amount up around the front. That's really good. Okay, so it looks like we have plenty. Now we get to the tricky part of this job. This gets a little tricky. So I wanted to do this step by step. Now one of the lessons I learned after covering many seats over many years, and upholstery for Art Conklin, and we made upholstery things in this house and everything. But the one thing I've come to learn is this is the word. No matter what you're doing, doesn't matter what, unless you're stapling together kids' homework. Heavy duty. Heavy duty staples are a little bit thicker and they have a really nasty point. If you run your hand over this, it'll be like a razor blade. Now, and a heavy duty ordinary arrow stapling gun. Now the reason is, I always start by using 1/4 inch staples because in the beginning, I'm going to be pulling them out and then stretching it, putting them in. But then when I'm all done, I'm going to load up the 3/8 staples for the final, the ones that are going to stay in there. Now I also have the choice, because this has batting and extra foam, I also have my power staple gun, but I just find it, in the beginning anyway, to work with this is a lot easier. So now I want to show the way, and there's a lot of ways to do these seats. I want to make sure I have enough material around. And these are just tack staples. A tack staple we know is going to come out. The only reason for putting this in, it'll allow me to measure the material a little bit easier. I want to hold my hand, the palm of my hand, and press down. Gives me a nice solid, I don't care about wrinkles right now. I just want to get a couple of staples holding this. And if I show this, this can sometimes be a little intimidating. When you get, in the beginning, there's 1,000 wrinkles, and in the end, you wonder where they went. Okay, so all that did, that's how I start off. Now I can pull this piece of material around. Now a lot of times, and today is one of the days we could do this, if we did it outside, you wouldn't need a heat gun because it's so hot. This would get so hot you almost can't touch it. But I see it's nice and baggy. I've got plenty on each side. Now I can start my process. So I'm looking down here. I want to take the scissors. I want to cut a little bit. Don't have to be fancy because the piece that's left over is not going to be big enough to cover anything. So that's basically scrap right now. Now we can do the same thing here and just gently pull it. Gently. Don't have to go crazy here yet. We're not trying to even make an attempt at getting the wrinkles out. I want to have this held in place. Once this is, now it's really nice if you have a helper, of course, but I've gotten used to the idea because of my whole life. I just don't have a robot around all the time. So that basically is holding it in place in some semblance of reality. We have enough material to go around the front. Now, I always pick, the choice that I like is to start at the back. Doesn't matter if you start at the back or the front, you can work one way or the other. So the first thing on this is going to be, I'm going to go right around the batting and everything, because all these staples are going to come out. These are just holding it in place temporarily. And now I can see, now that's flattening the back out. I like to get this part done. Now I can get up in the corner here and get rid of, see, I don't want to take the material off ahead of time. I want to give myself a little extra material here just for a handle. Just makes it easier. Whole idea of this whole process is just make it easy. If I can get a staple in there, that's good. Now see what happens? That side is already starting to conform. I look at here, I'm just eyeballing this. This is not real critical. The only thing you can do wrong right now is make this too small. And then you make it hard on yourself. You wind up like you got to grab it with your fingertips. So I'm pulling this corner, looking for a corner, not worrying about wrinkles right now. We're going to pull these and make them a lot solider. And then if we have to, we can even use a power. See, now these don't want to go in. And here's the reason. I need to get the palm of my hand on this because we have a big buildup of foam there. There you go. Okay, now wherever there's a wrinkle, let me show this. Wherever you have a wrinkle, this is coming up here. You want to go right in the middle, pull that back if you can, spread it a little bit. Get on some solid material. Yep, and that isn't solid enough. See, the reason is we have so much foam here. Whoever did this seat, this does not look like a factory job. They have an awful lot of foam there. And I don't want to trim it out because it's just easier for me to deal with it this way. Okay, we'll get one in here. Now if I have to, and there they go. If I have to, I can put a 1/2-inch staple there. I'd rather not, because then I'm knocking myself out pulling them out. Okay, I got a wrinkle here. Here's the wrinkle. I want to spread the wrinkle much as I can. Try the same thing and see if I can get a staple in there. Ooh, now the wrinkle moved over to that side. Now I can very carefully pull this staple out. We have an extra one in there now. And it just takes a little time. This is just wherever the wrinkle is, pull it to both sides. Pull it around. We don't need any heat yet. The wrinkle's walking its way over this way, so little by little by little, this is going to conform little by little by little. And I'm going to use that whole thing to work myself right around the whole perimeter of the seat. But I'm going to start at the back first. Okay, now with the back just roughly stretched in place, now you can see what we've done is the wrinkles are starting to work their way up to the front. So I have to take some of these staples out, pull this material up little by little by little, because eventually we're going to have to use some heat here to get that to sit down. But right now we've got the back relatively wrinkle free, and we're going to do the same process, working our way up, and it takes about an hour for me to get all the wrinkles out. It's just a time consuming job, but once you know the technique for getting out the wrinkles, it goes. Now obviously this part has to go down, so now the trick is, and it's not a real good trick at all, not a big trick. I've got to take the staples out here, anywhere where it's baggy, pull that up, tighten it up. I've got to pull the staples out of here, pull this over. At some point in time I may need some heat. This is relatively thick, high quality vinyl. When you use the real cheesy stuff that's like saran wrap, you don't have this, you really don't even need the heat. But to try to get that to lay down as much as possible, and then we're going to pull. Well, it's just a question of always finding a wrinkle wherever there is a wrinkle or something. Now you can see the wrinkle is this way. It means it's got to be pulled this way. You wouldn't pull it this way. You pull it, find a wrinkle, pull it in the direction at opposite 90 degrees, and we'll do one side, then go do the other side. So if you see the cover walking its way off one side, that's why you always leave a little bit extra on there. You can see we've got the big wrinkle diminished, but now we see the wrinkle is here and here. So this has to get unstapled and pulled in this direction. The same on the other side. And we work this little by little by little by little by little, up to the point we can't stretch it anymore, and then we'll have to use a little bit of heat. Okay, so from this point on, we have a heat gun. We want to get these last few wrinkles out. And what's going to happen, I want to heat this area here up. I want to take these staples out, and then, now this is where it would really be handy if you have a helper. Stretch this down in this dimension. Remember, I always want to go opposite of the wrinkle. So here we have even a little more of it out. Now, what's going to happen? You see where this wrinkle is? I got to loosen the staples here and pull this, because this is where this is a wrinkle. I need to pull it down over the lip. So now we're coming up on the final part of this where we want to use heat. And I'll try to show one of these in real life here. But there's still some little wrinkles here. Now we really can't get this as perfect as I'd like because the rubber has chunks missing, and this seat, you can see what's happened. The rubber itself, I think this fella had bungee cords or something here, and I'm not sure that if we sanded this down, the foam is in such rough condition it might make it worse. So I think overall, I think this is going to be fine, of course, but I'm always looking to make it a little nicer if I can. Let me show one of these heat stretches just so you can see. So this would be, from this point on, this would be exactly what you would do over and over as many times as you want until you get it to the point you want. There's a couple of tricks you can do if right now, and it is hot outside, but you take this, go to lunch, and put the seat just the way it is, right here. Put this out on the dashboard of your car, right under the windshield. When you come back, you'll notice this is soft and pliable, and you can, well, but it's just too uncomfortable to be out there. I'd rather be in air conditioning. So the heat gun allows us to do that. Now I'm looking for the spot that I'd like to stretch the most. Well, I guess right here we can get it. Let's get it right here. So the first thing to do, and you do this over and over again, of course, take out the staples from that one side, because all we're doing now really is making this tighter and tighter and tighter. And at some point in time, there's a point where you'll be happy with it. And keep in mind, a year later, after you ride the bike, you can, one day, rainy day, do the whole thing over again and just stretch it. So now this piece is free. So now this is where the valley is and where the wrinkles tend to form. So I want to have the heat gun, all this area. You don't want to hold the heat gun there. You will definitely burn through this vinyl. There's a little bit of a, I like to have it just so hot that I almost can't touch it. And then what you see right away, it becomes very, very flexible. And once it becomes flexible, you can get that extra little stretch in there. That makes for a nicer job. Now in this case, I'm really sad that we didn't have, and I'll see what I'm going to do here is turn this around. Let's see, I can do it this way. I got to use, if I have a helper, that'll be really nice, but I got to put a lot of extra pressure on that. And then what I'm doing here is I'm taking the nose of the staple gun and pushing it up. And while that vinyl is soft, you can get a little extra stretch on it without a big problem. And so here's the thing, you can do that over and over and over until you think, now unfortunately, this piece of foam really wasn't perfect, and we've made the most out of what we can do with this, but it would have been nice if we had a better piece of foam. Okay, now we're basically almost done here. Now, a couple of things we could, at the end of the day, lay this out in the sun or under the dashboard of the car. It'll soften that vinyl again. That's one of the best tricks. But now, with everything stretched pretty much the way I want it, we have no wrinkles. I trimmed off in here. What I'm going to do now is I put the longer staples in the gun, and I'm going to go around and get even a little more stretch on it. Just get a whole row of extra staples in here anywhere I can, because you don't see them anyway. But of course, in time, you don't want your handiwork to come apart. And if I do the whole perimeter, I did not have to use the pneumatic gun. The pneumatic gun sometimes puts a staple right through the other side. You don't know. But anyway, I think, considering we had a rough piece here to work with, I think that's going to be a nice addition. When that's on Steve's bike, it's going to be a nice addition to his project. Now, this is a step that I always do, just because I know eventually you may run your hand over that. We'd hopefully not have poor Turbo Steve bleed to death or something out on a ride. Going to get his salami sandwich and it has a sharp edge. Anyway, my overall feeling is this came out pretty good considering what we had to work with. But then that's the case with everything. I mean, if you have all brand new stuff, well, everything comes out better. But we did make a usable, I think a functional seat out of this. Should look pretty nice. I don't know what Steve is doing, if he's cafeing the bike out or if he's making it stock, or we never know, but I think that's gonna be part of it. So I hope you enjoyed sharing a video of Turbo Steve's 250 Ninja seat. When we see this up at the market meetups, we'll know it's another high quality job. Anyway, hope you enjoyed watching, and you'll be doing some work on your bike someday, and this information will be useful. So again, thanks for watching.